Okay, let's do Sivav again. So again, just to refresh the map of the Torah, a Rachman could be a manig, and you have to have das to know who not to give Rachmanas to, because you're not allowed to give Rachmanas. There are people that it's forbidden to have Rachmanas, and even those who you have to give Rachmanas, it has to be according to the recipient's needs. Just like you can't give a child of 4 days old a meichel of an adult, so too you have to know that each individual has a different need, and you have to give him according to his need.
I ask a quick question. Do you think of Nachman when he says something like, example, Arbam Yom and
Yes.
is there
Yes.
everything
Yes.
is a number exact?
Yes. According to Kabbalah, I saw somewhere, I don't remember where, but I saw maybe the Paparazzi, I don't remember where I saw it, but that the Tinnik Shel Daled Yomim is being merames on the 4 lowest spheres. Netzach Hod Yisoid Malchus. That Netzach Hod Yisoid Malchus is like the Tinnik of 4 days old. That's why it's saying 4 days old to represent these 4 spheres, that they need Chalav Mamish. That these spheres are just like a Tinnik, that you can't feed them Chachma and Bina and Das. You have to feed them Chalav Daika, which means their necessary spirituality. So yes, 100% that the Rebbe, every word, I'm surprised you're asking that question. Every word that the Rebbe says.
I know that, but I'm saying is that, like, I want to know if I should be like I should be asking, sort of, to speak.
Yeah.
I mean, not asking,
yeah,
to get clarity on such simple things like that.
100%, for sure. So now, so then the Rebbe told us, who is this Rachman? Moshe Rabbeinu, because he was the manik, and he will be, because Mashayu was shiur. Why was he the manik? Because he was Moisin Nefesh, Hishlich Nafshe Mineged, V'lo Yoyech Chosh Meklal, like the pasuk says, and he said, no, Im Tisachat Tosem, Im Ayim Echeni No Mezivircha. So Moshe Rabbeinu, because he was Mesiris Nefesh to the top level, so he was the manik and will be the manik. He is this Rachman, the profile of this Rachman that knows who to give Rachmanis to, who not to give Rachmanis to, and how much Rachmanis to give to each person. And what does Moshe Rabbeinu do with this Rachmanis? He's oisik b'yeshuva shalayim, of bringing das into the world, because a world that doesn't have das, people that don't have das, they're only an animal in the form of a person. But das is what makes you into a human being. That's like the pasuk tells us, Ata reisel das ki Hashem Elokim, because Moshe Rabbeinu pasach lanu oira das, he opened up the light of das to us, v'gila lanu es hadas sheyesh Elokim shalat ba'aretz, that there is a ruler, a God that is ruling everything in the world. So I just want to say a point here that I said last night, is that is the das is always the same das. Here's a very interesting concept that I want to let me broaden it a little bit and get it clear of myself. It sounds like the Rebbe is saying that das is always the same. What's the das? Sheyesh Elokim shalat ba'aretz. But there are levels and levels of recognizing that the Eibishter rules the world. You could recognize it like the child who sings Hashem is here, Hashem is there, Hashem is truly everywhere, which is a place more of a munah, but because he doesn't have das yet. And here, let's say my son was, I learned with my son afterwards. I went to stop by in his yeshiva afterwards. I learned with him. So he asked me, Tab, but das is the opposite of amunah. Das is knowledge, and amunah is belief. And if I have the knowledge, then how does the belief works? I said no. Emunah is belief. Yediyah is I know. And Yediyah is not Emunah, and Emunah is not Yediyah, because if I know, then I don't believe, and if I believe, I don't know. So Das is the knowledge that I don't know. Tachlis HaYediyah Asher Lo Yineda. The Rebbe said yesterday, we learned this, that the tachlis of knowing is to recognize that I don't know. What does that mean? It means that the more I know Hashem is running the world, the more I know that I don't know, because the world is so big and there's so many olamas. So the more I recognize that Hashem is really running the world, and I'm able to trace back and say, oh, that's Hashem, that's Hashem, that's Hashem, that knowledge gives me more belief that Hashem is running the world. So that's das. Das is the connection to my belief that I don't see, but I'm so connected that it's as if I see, and what do I see? I see that I don't know, and I have to believe more. You chop what I just said? So that means that the das is always the same das. Moshe Rabbeinu gave one das, one statement. Yesh elikim shalid ba'aretz ve'einoid milvado. That platform goes into every space and has depth and endless depth of Yesh elikim shalid ba'aretz. But always it's the same das. Yesh elikim shalid ba'aretz. And when you have das of Yesh elikim, and that das, like we see now in Sivav, is something that keeps growing, because every makif that comes in and becomes a pinim, it's enhancing. You were asking yesterday, Nisroikin, they asked it last night also. What's this lashon of Nisroikin Moichai? That it empties out. If it empties out, then he loses it. So, and we'll see in Siv Zayin, and the next Siv also. No, it's an enhancement. Every time, yes, I lose that pnim because I'm getting a makif that's going to include that pnim and enhance the pnim. So even if it's emptying out to you, the new makif that I'm getting is a new das of Yesh elikim shalid ba'aretz. So 1 second. So hang on, let me just finish my thought. So the Yesh elikim shalid ba'aretz that I get from the new makif is really including the old makif as well, because it's Yesh elikim shalid ba'aretz. So Yesh elikim shalid ba'aretz is the das. That is the das. The das is sheyesh elikim shalid ba'aretz. That's the das. That platform opens me up in every place to another level and another level, and every time I reach another level of Yesh elikim shalid ba'aretz, it's including the previous level that I had. So it's even though Nisroikin Moichai, his mind empties out, but it's Nisroikin Moichai on the place of Yesh elikim shalid ba'aretz. Got it?
Yeah, so
I'll ask it as a question. I'll say the exact same thing that you're saying, just through a question and answer, because this is what happened last night by the shiur. So they asked, right, like you asked, Nisroikin Moichai, it empties out. So let me bring Chaim into the thing. We're talking about das, right? So the Rebbe is teaching us now a new idea of das. He's saying that there's something called a makif and a pnim, which means there is a das that I internalize, and there's a das that's external, and it surrounds me. And we could understand this concept many times in learning for sure, but even probably in business, there's an idea that's formulating in your head, but it's not just that it's not clear. You feel something, that you have an instinct that is telling you go in this direction of thought. So you didn't even really think it yet, but and you can feel it. You feel like there's something there. I need to explore that thing. That thing is your makif. That thing is a seichel that you don't know yet, you don't understand yet, but you have a hunch, an instinct that's pulling you and telling you to get to that seichel. That's how I'm explaining makif. Maybe you could explain it better, but that means it's something I don't have it internal, but it's right outside my realm. And I could see it very blurry. I could see that there's something there. I don't understand it yet. I don't know it yet, but I could see that there is something there. Do you have a better way of explaining that? But you know what I'm talking about when I say this thing? So I'm saying that is the way I understand this understanding of a makif and a pnim. Then I explored it. I did my due diligence. I weighed it all out, and now I internalized it, and now it became a pnim. But it's still.
Or you internalized it, you clarified it.
Yeah, I clarified it, and then I internalized it. It became a pnim. So what was a makif becomes a pnim. So the Rebbe is saying that there is every time a makif becomes a pnim, you get a new makif. Because das is never ending. There is never ending. The Hashem is Ein Sof, is infinite. So even though I internalized this makif, but as soon as I internalized this makif, I got a new makif. And the Rebbe brings a mashal later in the Torah that he says like a person who's learning Gemara Rashi Taisus. So he learns, he has a kasha, and as he's saying over the question to his friend, all of a sudden the teretz hits him. I have this all the time, many times. I don't know what asking. And as you ask the question, all of a sudden the teretz hits me. So what happened? The makif became, and now I tell you the teretz, and all of a sudden after I tell you the teretz, but that all of a sudden, wait a second, but that doesn't work in every scenario. So I have a bigger kasha than I had originally, because my original kasha was a question. I had a teretz to the question, but now I'm stumped with a bigger kasha on the teretz, and now so the Rebbe is explaining that to prove that it's a continuous thing that never. The only time it stops is when I stop. When I stop and say, okay, too deep for me, above my pay grade, I'm not going into that place. But be'etzem, in Ruchnias, there is no end to the makifim. Only my.
What is the title of makif?
So now, whatever he. By the way, the English word in the English translation is transcendent perceptions. Makifim is called transcendent perceptions. I have no idea. That's what das is. We said das is connection to the spirituality behind the screen of physicality. That's what das is. It's the knowledge that I'm connecting to. Which, okay, well, I don't want to get lost here for a second. So the Rebbe says, very interesting concept. There's this concept of makif and pnim. And every time I internalize a makif, anytime I learn something new, even if I'm learning Havli Olam Hazeh, but trigonometry, algebra, something, whatever it is, and now I got it, I learned the formula, I know the theorems, I know the thing, I know how to apply it, so I internalize that intellect that was a makif, I was internalizing. Now, I don't know if that's really called a makif because it's because it exists already in the world. Spirituality, even though it exists in the world, everyone has a different perception of das, of connection to Hashem.
The same thing with algebra. Until you know it, you didn't have
Yeah, but once you know it, everybody knows the same thing. In spirituality, it's not. My perception of Hashem and your perception of Hashem are different because of my experiences, it's from my world. It's me.
But you could say that about algebra as well. When you learn algebra at a basic level, it's not the same guy who does it.
Yeah, but let's say you got to the highest level. You're the professor. There's
always somebody that can come higher.
In spirituality, there is no such thing. It's endless. It doesn't.
The Olympics swimming champ in 1922 or 24 or 26, whenever the Olympics were in the 20s, was way slower than the guy who won the Olympics.
Yeah, I get it. So what you're saying is it really works the same thing physically also. Could be. Maybe because it's spiritual.
That's what I was going to say. If physicality only exists as a manifestation of spirituality, then if spirituality is open-ended or unending, then physicality has to be unending as well.
Right. So I agree with you, but the unending part of the physicality, if it is only the spiritual part of it. In other words, trees die, people die, animals die. Everything has a definition. Everything has a cap and a limit, right? Spirituality has no limit. It's beyond that limit. Whatever the limit is, it goes even beyond that limit. Because there's no limits. There's no limitation to spirituality. So what we're saying is there's no limitation to das, first of all. That's a thing. Das is something that I don't get it. All the Rebbe says, that's the part that we're getting to. The Rebbe says the tachlis hayediyah shaloi neda. The purpose of knowing is to know that I don't know. And we have the pnim. And every time the Rebbe says that I talk to you in Yerushalayim and I give over my das to you, so that means if I'm teaching you now about Makif and Pnim, and you didn't know about Makif and Pnim, and it inspired you now that you know about the Makif and Pnim, so what happened was that what was a Makif to you was a Pnim to me, and by me talking to you about it, I brought that Makif inside to you to become a Pnim. So what really happens, the Rebbe is saying, is that I took my Pnim, which was a Makif to you, and made it your Pnim. In order for me to do that, what happens is I emptied out my Mayach, Nisroiken Maychay, my mind that internalized this Makif, and now that I gave it to you, I emptied it out, I give it to you, and now my Mayach is empty, this space, and new Makif comes into my brain, into my Mayach. That's what the Rebbe says. So the question was, and the Rebbe says, and Memela, if you accept it and you're inspired by it, so you become my Talmud, and then you tell me a word back, and now I become your Talmud, so I get a new Makif, and you get a new Makif, right? And that's how the Das stays in the world, and that's how the Das continuously stays in the world, because I'm giving over my Das to you, and when I give over my Das to you, I get a new Makif, I get new Das, a deeper level of understanding. And so to you, when you give it over to me, you're giving me a deeper level of understanding, and that's the continuation of how the Das of Moshe Rabbeinu, Ato Reisel Das Ki Hashem Ulakim, that's how it continues into the world till eventually we're going to get to the place Kimala Aretz Deis Hashem, that even the Goyim are going to get the Das that Yesh Elikim Shal Ba'aretz, that the Eibushter rules the world, and that's going to be the Das, and that's how the Das is being spread through Ben and Talmud, and that's how we're getting this Makif and this Pnim. So Mendy asked the question yesterday, if the Rebbe says that my brain is emptied out, Nisroiken Moichay, so that means I lost the Das. If I gave over that Das to you, then I lost the Das.
Why is it not like fire?
Because, exactly what I said. Exactly what I said. I said I light a candle in this room, and I take the candle to the other room. So now the candle's still lit in my room. But I think that it's more than that, because I think there's another stage. This, and perhaps I don't. This is my own Torah here. That the Das, even when it becomes a Pnim and I internalized it, it's still an internalization of in my head. It's in my mayach. It didn't become part of me. But let's say you here, you're a perfect example. Well, you decided you're going to stop eating chalav stam, right? So you internalized it first, that, you know what, I want to stop eating chalav stam, and then you stopped eating chalav stam. But what prevented you 2 days later from eating chalav stam? Or 3 days later? You had to have a challenge and say no 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, whatever. It becomes part of you. In the beginning, it's a challenge. Second time, it's a challenge. Third time, by the 4th, 5th time already, it's not a challenge. This is who you are. You don't eat chalav stam. So that means there's a stage where it's in your mayach, you internalized it, but it still didn't become part of you. So I want to say, perhaps, when you give over the das to someone else and you're making his makif a pnim by giving over, emptying out your pnim, what happens now is it becomes part of you. It's no longer, it's not a pnim anymore, it's a chelik of you. It's not that it's a part of me that's existing in me, and I have to attach myself to that place in order to be in that place. No, that becomes me. That das becomes me. So in spiritual, let's take it into Hashem, right? The kid that sings, Hashem is there, Hashem is there, Hashem is truly everywhere. Although he's purer in his knowledge of Hashem, but he has no real knowledge of Hashem. He has an understanding, right? But it's not.
No, he has a knowledge, but he doesn't have an understanding.
Right. But how many experiences have we seen Hashem is there and Hashem is there and Hashem is truly here, even though we're still challenged? So our das is bigger. By him it's a munah, and by us it's already das, because we connected to that. Hashem is here. And when we're singing Hashem is there, Hashem is there, Hashem is truly everywhere, we're singing with much more meaning than he is, because he's doing it from a place of complete amunah, no das. But we are already saying it with das because it became part of us. And we're challenged with a different level of das, and a different makif, and a different pnim. So what I'm saying is that even though it empties out, it becomes part of me. That's one thing that I want to say. And one last thing I want to say is that not only does it become part of me, but the new das, the new makif that I get, is an enhancement of the das that I had before. Even if it's in a different, here, the first das I was talking about was seeing Hashem in the car, and the other das I'm talking about is seeing Hashem in the house. It's irrelevant, because the new makif that I'm getting is a deeper level of das that yesh alikim shalad ba'aretz. So in that deeper level of das, sheyesh alikim shalad ba'aretz, linked the previous das as well, even though it's in a different subject and a different place, because all das is one thing: to know sheyesh alikim shalad ba'aretz, to know that the Eibishter is ruling the world. Okay, man, that is what I got for today.